Welcome to Adult ypww Lesson 7. I do not own the rights to this music. Today's lesson text is coming out of 1 Samuel chapter 30, verses 1 through 8. Today's topic is Go into Prayer. 1 Samuel chapter 30, verses 1 through 8. And it came to pass, when David and his men were come to Ziklag on the third day, that the Amalekites had invaded the south, and Ziklag, and smitten Ziklag, and burned it with fire, and had taken the women captives that were therein. They slew not any, either great or small, but carried them away, and went on their way. So David and his men came to the city, and behold, it was burned with fire, and their wives and their sons and their daughters were taken captives. Then David and the people that were with him lifted up their voice and wept, until they had no more power to weep. And David's two wives were taken captives, Ahinoam the Jezreelitess, and Abigail the wife of Nabal the Carmelite. And David was greatly distressed, for the people spake of stoning him, because the soul of all the people was grieved, every man for his sons and for his daughters. But David encouraged himself in the Lord his God. And David said to Abiathar the priest, Ahimelech's son, I pray thee, bring me hither the ephod. And Abiathar brought thither the ephod to David. And David inquired at the Lord, saying, Shall I pursue after this troop? Shall I overtake them? And he answered him, Pursue, for thou shalt surely overtake them, and without fail recover all. The aim of this lesson is to show how prayer is a key method or strategy for dealing with discouragement. The memory verse for today's lesson. I will read the King James Version first, and then the New International Version of Psalms chapter 27, verse 4. One thing have I desired of the Lord, that will I seek after, that I may dwell in the house of the Lord all the days of my life, to behold the beauty of the Lord, and to inquire in his temple. The New International Version. One thing I ask from the Lord, this only do I seek, that I may dwell in the house of the Lord all the days of my life, to gaze on the beauty of the Lord, and to seek him in his temple. The introduction says, God does not give us complicated solutions to problems. His solutions are very simple. Prayer is one of those simple solutions. When you need to talk to God, you don't have to get deep. You don't have to wax eloquent. You don't have to go through some prolonged procedure. You just have to very simply do it. Unfortunately, there are those who don't know what to pray or how to pray. They pray, but they lack the knowledge they need to pray effective prayers. Some lack such basic knowledge as prayer is a two-way conversation rather than a one-way conversation. So what ends up happening is that the person praying does all the talking. They never pause long enough to get a response or an answer. It's like making a phone call, saying what you have to say, and hanging up before the person on the other end has a chance to say hello or get a word in edgewise. If you pray like this, you cannot realistically expect to get your prayers answered. You are hanging up on God. You are cutting the conversation short. You are really cutting yourself off from God, giving you the answer you need. The discussion says, you need to understand that there are different types of prayers. Many believers are just familiar with one type of prayer and that is petition prayer. A petition is an earnest request. It is something asked or requested. Petition prayer is a prayer where you are asking or requesting God for something. Oftentimes, it is requesting God to do something. This is not the kind of prayer that David prayed here in 1 Samuel chapter 30, verse 8. He did not pray and ask God to bless him. He did not pray or request God to deliver him from discouragement. He did not pray and ask God to restore his kidnapped family. He did not pray or request God for the means to rebuild his city. He did not pray and ask or request God to do anything. When David prayed, he inquired of the Lord. To inquire is to search or seek, but to inquire is also to ask about. It is to ask questions. This is what David did. He didn't ask for things. He asked questions. What were his questions? There were two questions he put before the Lord. The first one was, shall I pursue after this troop? The second question was, shall I overtake them? The answer to both questions was yes. The application. Like David, you can overcome discouragement. Just pray. If you have been praying, change the way you pray. If you keep praying the way you've been praying, you are going to keep getting the same results. So change up. Pray as David prayed. Don't just pray a prayer of petition. Pray a prayer of inquiry. Pray prayers where you inquire of the Lord. Ask God questions when you pray. Then take time in the prayer to let God give you answers. Learn how to be still. Learn how to get in a quiet place and quiet yourself. Learn how to quiet your spirit so you can hear from God. Spend time waiting on God. Spend time waiting in His presence. Spend time praising and worshiping Him. Spend time making inquiries, but then spend time waiting to hear His voice. The lesson illustration. Samuel is a case in point. When God called Samuel in 1 Samuel chapter 3, verses 4 through 10, Samuel thought it was Eli speaking to him. So he went running to Eli. It was nighttime. So Eli told Samuel to go back to sleep. But the voice came again and again. Finally, Eli realized that it was the Lord calling Samuel. So he told him the next time he heard that voice to say, "Speak, Lord, for thy servant hears." This is what you should do to overcome your discouragement. Go to God about your discouragement. Tell him that you are discouraged. Be open and upfront about it. Confess it. But then ask the Lord what you should do about it. Afterward, give him some time to respond. He may not answer you right away, but that's all right. Be anxious for nothing. Patiently wait on the Lord. One Bible translation of Matthew chapter 7, verse 7 says, "Ask and keep on asking. Seek and keep on seeking." Our problem is that we ask one time and stop asking. We seek one time and stop seeking. That's why we do not always get what we ask or seek. We are too impatient. We want to pray microwave prayers and get microwave answers. But it just doesn't work like that. Sometimes you just have to wait to get an answer. Do you really want to overcome discouragement? Pray and keep on praying. You may ask how long you have to pray. Pray until you get an answer. Prayer is not just asking, It is asking, seeking, and knocking. Ask until it is given. Seek until you find. Knock until the door is opened. The questions for today's lesson, and you can search the scriptures on your own. Question 1. Think about the last time you were discouraged. Question 1 again. Did you do anything about it? If so, what? Question 2. In light of Matthew chapter 6, verses 32 and 33, what can we learn from the fact that David did not ask God for things? What should we be seeking or praying? Read Matthew chapter 6, verse 10. Question 3. Does praying this way mean that our needs will go unmet? Question 4. David did not pray and ask God to do something. What did he pray? Question 5. He prayed and asked God what he should do. What lessons can we learn from this? And question 6. What should one do after they have prayed and asked God a question? The end. God bless you and thank you for joining me today.